I know that a lot of you applied in round 1 of the Innovation Fund, but we're going to give a brief overview of what we're looking for in round 2. And it's very similar to what we were looking for in round 1, but there are some strategic changes that we want to note for y'all today. And then we're also going to hear from one of the round 1 winners. And there's one strategic change that we're making for round 2. And we have a representative from Gwinnett here today to talk about something that he's doing that we think is applicable for this change that we're going to make. So bear with us. Some of y'all already know a lot of this information, but we're going to go through for those that did not apply in round 1. So I think most of y'all know about Race to the Top, but Georgia was awarded $400 million out of the Stimulus Act to implement our Race to the Top plan last year. So we just approached the 1-year anniversary of Race to the Top, and we're really excited about the work. There were 4 priorities of Race to the Top. Those are common standards and assessments, building comprehensive data systems to measure student growth, recruiting, preparing, rewarding, and retaining effective teachers and leaders, and then turning around the lowest achieving schools. And Georgia was one of 12 states to receive Race to the Top funding, and we're very proud of that. And then the Innovation Fund is a $19.4 million fund, like Governor Deal said. It's one of the projects within Race to the Top. So through the Innovation Fund, we provide competitive grants to support the establishment and deepening of partnerships that have innovative and high-impact programs aimed at improving the academic achievement of Georgia's K-12 students. So there are several priorities within the Innovation Fund, but the obvious goal is to improve student outcomes. The 4 goals of the Innovation Fund are strong partner commitments, increased access to STEM opportunities, utilization of best practices, and, like I said, improved student outcomes.
And these are clearly aligned with the 4 priority areas under which you will apply for the Innovation Fund. That goes without saying.
So in terms of who is eligible to apply, we've talked a lot about partnerships today. So a partnership has to be existing between 2 or more of the following entities. So it can be an LEA, a school, or a charter school. Obviously, if it's a school, then an LEA, you need to have the LEA support if it's not an independent charter school. An institution of higher education, and that can be public or private. A consortium of schools can apply together, a business and or a nonprofit organization, but that nonprofit organization needs to have done some work to advance the academic achievement of Georgia's K-12 students. So one thing that we really want to hit on today is what a partnership means. And that a partnership, like we heard from in the first session today, is something where everybody's leveraging their resources. So it doesn't mean a contractual partnership between one person where you're compensated for your services and you're not really putting in any resources into that. So it can be not necessarily a direct financial contribution, but financial, intellectual, human capital resources, but everybody is contributing something toward the project.
I would just add that in round 1, we saw some partnerships that were usually a school or a district, and then a contracted service provider that was being totally compensated for everything that they were bringing to the table. And the joke is that that's like saying Bloomingdale's and I are partnered to enhance my wardrobe. I mean, that's not the dynamic of a partnership that we're looking for in this project. And so, and as Joe pointed out earlier, businesses have more to bring to the table than just cash or a check. They have a specific and unique skill set that they can leverage depending on the community, depending on the context. It can be a variety of things, and those are the kind of things that you want to tap into and really engage a partner, whether it's a higher ed partner, a nonprofit partner, or a private industry partner. You want to engage them meaningfully so that they are a dynamic contributor to the overall success of the project.
Okay, so there are 2 different types of grants. I think most of you guys are familiar with this, but there are enterprise grants, which are multi-year, and that goes up to 3 years through the end of Race to the Top, which is September 2014. And then there are venture grants, which are single-year planning grants. And venture grants are exclusive to Priority 4, and we'll get into the priorities in a second, but Priority 4 is that STEM charter priority. So if you're applying for a venture grant, this would be to develop a charter petition to open a STEM charter school. All right, so we'll talk more about the priorities, and there are some important changes here that we've made in the priorities for the round 2 RFP. So we'll note those later, but pay specific attention to this right now. The first priority is applied learning, and that means people that are coming together to create positive student outcomes through creating applied learning opportunities and experiences that are tied to at least one subject matter content area. So an important change that we've made in round 2 are these 3 components that we think need to be incorporated into an applied learning opportunity. We saw a lot of applications that had one or two of these, but we really think all three of these are important for what we're looking for the Innovation Fund. Can y'all hear me better now, by the way? Yeah. Okay. The first one is heightened academic rigor. The second is enhanced self-management skills. And the third is increased opportunities to apply new knowledge and skills within a real-world setting. And so I would say, like we said, in the first round we saw some that had maybe one or two and three, but all three of these are important for what we're looking to fund through the Innovation Fund. And we'll give a competitive preference for STEM-focused opportunities. That remains the same in the second round. And then something else we want to emphasize is that we're really looking for opportunities that focus on student experiences rather than teacher experiences. We received a lot of applications in the first round that were focused on giving a teacher an experience that they would then bring back to the classroom. And while that is not a bad idea and doesn't mean that it's not meaningful, we're really looking to expose students to new opportunities and real-world ideas. So.
Right. The clarification around applied learning is only to enhance the kind of proposals that we see in round two. We really look at these three criteria that we added in the RFP for round two as a three-legged stool, and we saw a lot of proposals in round one that maybe had two legs, but we're just missing that one component, and so it was a little wobbly. The combination of those three is what produces a meaningful applied learning experience for students that can lead to enhanced student outcomes.
Okay, priority 2 is induction. And this is the creation of innovative and highly effective teacher and leader induction programs that are comprehensive in nature. So by comprehensive in nature, we mean that they should address the challenges of teachers or school leaders that are serving the most high-need students in schools, creating a supportive environment for new teachers, very importantly, measuring teacher and leader progress. This is a very important component of our Race to the Top plan, and some of this work is still in flux, so I know it's hard to create a plan right now that is aligned exactly to the Race to the Top plan, but we just need to make sure that we're not doing anything in conflict. So there are lots of moving parts in this, and that can be complicated, but we're happy to work with you on all of that. But using the teacher and leader effectiveness measures that are included in the Race to the Top plan. And then the last part is exposing new teachers and leaders to effective teaching and learning and leadership tools and techniques. All right, the third one is growing the teacher pipeline. So this means achieving positive student outcomes by increasing the pipeline of effective teachers and leaders in rural communities and or hard to staff subject matter content areas. So these programs need to recruit and select program participants that are really interested in teaching and then put them in areas where they're most needed. So that could be either rural Georgia where we have a hard time attracting teachers or getting them into subject matter areas that we have a hard time recruiting teachers into, like STEM subject areas. As I think most of y'all know, we don't prepare or produce many new STEM teachers every year, so that's something that we're really looking to support here.
I think we clarified this in the round 2 RFP as well, but even if you're applying for under priority 2 or 3, you still need to make some mention and some commitments to improve student outcomes, because that's the end game of the Innovation Fund, and actually that's the end game of Race to the Top in general. And I know that these programs are specifically focused on teacher development and the provision of teachers to hard to staff areas, but if at the same time, if you're asking for $1 million grant for this wonderful professional development opportunity, you have to believe that it leads to some positive outcome for students. And so all we're asking is for you to include that explicitly in your proposals.
And then another important component of this, just like the induction program, is that you need to focus on effectiveness measures here. We want to grow the number of teachers, but we also want to make sure that they are effective when we send them out into the classroom. So this priority also needs to include those teacher and leader effectiveness measures. And then priority 4 is a priority that Governor Deal is very passionate about. He asked us to add this. This was not originally included in our Race to the Top plan. But priority 4 is creating STEM charter schools. And these schools need to be focused on improving the delivery of STEM education. And that can happen in several ways. But what we really want to see here is leveraging non-traditional partnerships. So for this school, we want to see a partnership with either a business that has expertise in a STEM area or a higher ed institution that is going to somehow leverage their experience to impact the mission of the school, which is STEM. And another thing is in the first round we saw a lot of schools or charter schools that applied under this priority with a really cool STEM program, but that is not sufficient for this. The mission of the school needs to be STEM. So you're delivering content matter and all other curriculum through these STEM opportunities that you're giving to students.
Right, not just a component, but a school-wide mission with which your curriculum is aligned. Every component of your school is STEM focused. That's a STEM charter school, not just a charter school with some cool opportunities attached to the curriculum that was established in your pre-existing charter.
So then the funding categories, these are just guidelines. We have to set some kind of guideline here, but we encourage you to create a budget just like we did in round one that is specific to the needs of your proposal. So we're saying large partnerships, if you're impacting a lot of students, $350,000 annually up to 3 years would be appropriate. For a smaller partnership, $100,000 annually. And then for the venture grants, the planning grants, around $50,000 annually. And again, these, it's hard to say, well, you can ask for whatever you want, but you need to think about the number of students you're impacting. Is it a reasonable thing to ask for? The goal of the Innovation Fund is to pilot new ideas and then see if they're scalable. So, I mean, you just think about what's reasonable and when we're reviewing these proposals, would we think is a good idea and could possibly be scaled statewide later. And then another important note about this is that Innovation Fund dollars cannot be used for supplanting or for facility costs. But the state will set aside bond funds. We have set aside bond funds to support facility costs. If you're trying to open a STEM charter school, you can make a separate request, just like you did in round one, for facility funds through the bond program to support either renovating or building a new building. There's definitely a preference on renovating existing facilities instead of building a new building.
Be sure to read your supplanting assurance that you're all signing as you submit your round two proposals. We know that you all understand what supplanting is, so I'm not going to go over it, but make sure that you read it, and because when you're building your budgets in round one, we saw things that constituted supplanting in this context and under the stipulations of RT3 money. So make sure that you understand what we're talking about when we say this grant money cannot be used to supplant.
And we're happy to answer any questions that you might have about that. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
And I probably missed this, I'm sorry. What defines a large partnership and what defines a small partnership?
You did not miss it.
That's a good question.
We specifically did not set parameters around what a large partnership or a small partnership is. We want these proposals to fit your needs, and we don't want to set some arbitrary parameters around that. We had to set a budget for the feds of how we were going to divvy out this $19.4 million, so that's what we did, but we just encourage you to create a budget that makes sense for you. And I know that is not a clear answer, but.
We would also encourage you to give some consideration on what you're asking the state to invest in and what the return on that investment would be. So for instance, if it is a very small program in scope that only serves 10 students, and those students only receive services, they may be very expensive services, but they only receive services twice a year or twice a semester, but it's going to cost $1 million, then that is going to be factored into the scoring of that proposal. Because while there's no minimum threshold for how few students you have to serve, or there's no maximum threshold on how many students you can aim to serve, there has to be some thought given as you're preparing a budget to the return on investment. So if you're asking for $1.5 million, then that would probably qualify as a large grant. And so you probably need to aim to serve a larger number of students. And when I say
Project versus partnership. So partnership is not defined that I have.
Yeah, it doesn't mean,
It's more
right.
project.
It doesn't mean there are this many partners involved. It just means the scope of your project. Right. And we'll be happy to take questions after this. I know that a lot of y'all probably have a lot of questions, but we'll try to hold those to the end if you can. But so the evaluation component is one of the most important components of this. We are trying to pilot new ideas, but it's obviously very important that we're making sure that these ideas are effective and that we're making a good investment here. So partners need to create an evaluation plan so that we can make decisions around scaling up successful strategies, and all of the components of the evaluation plan need to be aligned to specific measurable and quantitative outcomes. That's something that we really want to focus on in the second round. We saw a lot of evaluation plans that had a lot of qualitative measures, which are great and important, and we want those included too, but we need to see quantitative student achievement outcomes in there as well. Okay, so we wanted to just highlight, I know that you guys have probably seen these and they're on our website to read, but just highlight the round one winners. And we do have representatives from Barrow County that are going to talk about their proposal. But like I said, I would encourage you guys, if you're trying to look at applying in one of these priority areas, we funded the highest scoring award or highest scoring proposal from each priority area, and they're on our website, and the scoring rubrics on our website. So I would encourage you to look at those and see what we liked and what we didn't like about those proposals, because every one of these proposals had some piece that could have been improved too. So they're not perfect by any means. But round one winners were Drew Charter School Partners of Innovation, and that addressed priority 4, which is the STEM charter priority. And they created a STEAM school in partnership with Georgia State and Georgia Tech. Teach for Georgia is a teacher pipeline program. It's modeled after TFA, and Georgia Tech is going to recruit STEM majors to teach in rural areas of Georgia where they're needed most, and they'll teach STEM subjects. The Barrow County proposal that we'll hear about is called the 21st Century STEM Collaborations, Applications of the Direct-to-Discovery Model, and that is a partnership with Georgia Tech, and they'll give a presentation on that, so I'll let them tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. The KIPP Teacher Fellows Program is a partnership between KIPP, Georgia State, and Mercer University College of Education. So this is a proposal that addresses priority 2 and 3. So they're going to recruit College of Education majors from Georgia State and Mercer into their KIPP Fellow Program and train them, and then they'll deploy them out into the teacher pipeline to Metro Atlanta schools. And then the one planning grant that we funded was the Regional Charter STEM Academy, and that is a partnership between Whitehall and Lumpkin County School Systems and North Georgia College and State University to create a tri-county STEM charter school. So these are just changes that we've made for round 2 that we want to either highlight or clarify. One important thing, and this is something that we'll hear from Gwinnett about just as a good example of what we're looking for this, but we're opening it up to replication. So what we don't want to see and what we're not looking to do within the Innovation Fund is to expand an existing program, because there's probably already a lot of investment in that program and it may not be the best use of our dollars. But if there is a program within your area that's been really successful, then we're interested in replicating that somewhere else. So I'll let Glenn talk a little bit more about that. We can take questions, but replicating successful programs outside of their original implementation site. And then we also want to highlight the changes that we made to applied learning, that there are 3 components now that need to be included in that. You saw that there are heightened academic rigor, enhanced self-management skills, and increased opportunities within a real-world setting. STEM charter schools, we just want to highlight that STEM needs to be the mission of the school, and there need to be tailored academic opportunities within that mission. And then the importance of evaluation. Within the scoring rubric, we're bumping that up a little bit just to show that evaluation is very important to us, and that there need to be quantitative student achievement measures there instead of just qualitative, and there need to be quantitative goals. So you're looking at where students are right now, and then you're saying we're going to move them up to this point. Okay, so then we have launched the RFP for round 2. We posted that on our website on September 1st. We're asking for notices of intent to apply on October 1st. Those are not mandatory. They just give us an idea of what's coming, and then they help us troubleshoot any problems that we see. So if you submit something and say, this is what we're planning to do, and we say, well, that may not be eligible, we don't want you to invest a ton of time in something that won't be eligible. So we'll go ahead and tell you now what changes you need to make. So I think it's within everybody's best interest to do that, but it's not binding, it's not mandatory, and we understand that your plans may change. Proposal submissions will be due on November 1st, and then we are going to make awards prior to the second half of the school year, and by January 9th. We're going to try to do it a little bit sooner than that, but it will be by January 9th. And then that's my contact info, which I think most of y'all have. But I know that a lot of y'all probably have questions about round 2, but I want to go ahead and let our round 1 winner and Dr. Pethel from Gwinnett present, and then we'll have time for questions and discussion after that.